Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. All right, so what we're gonna do now is that we're gonna quickly go how to see how do you multiply and you divide algebraic fractions. This is a follow-up from the previous video, the part 2, where we talked about the 3 common fractions, all right? So please try as much as possible to review the previous video before moving forward. Is that all right? Now, the second thing as well I want you to keep in mind is that algebraic fractions, the way you multiply and divide them is similar to normal fractions, all right? So, but I'm just gonna just take it here. Like I always say in my class, I assume no knowledge. So we start from the scratch. For some of you, it's gonna be like a revision, but for some of you, it's gonna be the first time watching that, all right? So let's go. So now we're gonna start with multiplication. How do you multiply? Okay, so multiplication. So how do you multiply algebraic fractions? So there are 3 rules, all right, or 3 steps on how to do that. So the first thing to do is that you have to multiply all the numerators together to give a resultant numerator. Just a quick one, just a quick reminder. I remember I told you in the previous video in this series that fractions are in the form of A divided by B. Now, A is the numerator, that is the number or the value on top of division sign, while B is the denominator. Okay, so B is the denominator. So now the 3 rules now is that we then have to multiply the numerators together to give a resultant numerator. So we multiply, okay, the numerators together to give a resultant what? Numerator. Okay. Then number 2, then after you multiply all the numerators together, you do the same thing to the denominator. So you multiply the denominators together to give a resultant denominator. Then after that, so the answer you get from step 1, you divide it with the answer you get from step 2 and you simplify. Is that okay? So let me put it like you divide the answer from step 1, okay, with step 2 and simplify if necessary or if needed. So we have this now. So let me see if we can pick a question together and we'll then solve it together. So let's say we have, or let me just take a general example to just drive home the point. So let's say we have A over B multiplied by C over D, okay? Step 1 says that we'll multiply the numerators together. So A multiplied by what? C divided by, multiply the denominators together. So it's going to be B multiplied by what? D. And we'll divide the answer from step 1. A multiplied by C is going to be AC divided by B multiplied by D is going to be BD. So if you have, let's say an example, 5 over 6 multiplied by 2 over 3, all right? You multiply all the numerators together, so it's going to give you 5 times 2 divided by 6 times 3, and that will give us 10 over 18. Now remember I said you can simplify if needed, so in this case we can simplify further. The same thing as saying 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5 divided by 2 times what? 9. This will cancel that. Remember I talked about this kind of fractions in the previous video, all right? And that will give you what? 5 over 9, and that will be the answer for that. Okay, so that is that for multiplication. So let's quickly go to division. So how do you do when you have two algebraic fractions dividing each other? So the same thing you do. So for division, now division is basically the same thing or very similar. It's just that you have an extra step added. All right. So you can say 4 rules or you can say 2 rules. So I prefer to say 2 rules so that the first rule is the extra step so that it'll be easy for you to know. So the first rule is that when you're having two fractions dividing themselves, what you do that you have to flip the second fraction. So you flip the second fraction. Okay, so when you flip the second fraction, so when I mean flipping, I mean the denominator becomes the numerator and the numerator becomes the denominator. So for instance, if we have A over B and I ask you to flip it, it's going to become B over what? A. So that means the denominator becomes the numerator while the numerator becomes the denominator. So the first thing to do is to flip the second fraction upside down. Okay, and not only that, when you flip it, you have to now change the sign, okay? So you then have to change the division sign, okay, to multiplication sign. Then after you've done that, you then have to follow the 3 rules we talked about. So the 3 rules of multiplication, all right? So then you now follow the 3 rules of multiplication of fractions. Is that okay? So the first thing you do when you have two fractions dividing itself, the second one you flip it. Then after you flip it, you just follow the 3 rules we talked about in the previous video. So for example, let's say we have AB divided by what? C over D. The first thing to do is to flip the second one. So it's going to be AB. We'll flip that. It's going to become D over C. Now the division sign will now become what? Multiplication sign. Are you seeing it? Then when you've done that, we'll follow the 3 rules. It's going to become A times D divided by what? B times C. And that will give us AD over what? BC. All right. And that'll be that for that. So let's use the same example we had the last time. So let's say we have 5 over 6 divided by 2 over 3. The same thing is going to become 5 over 6 multiplied by 3 over 2. And that will give us 5 times 3 divided by 6 times 2. And that will give us 15 over 12. Now, like I said, you can still break this down. This is the same thing as saying 3 times 5 over 3 times 4. This will cancel that. And we have 5 over 4. So the answer for this is 5 over 4. All right. So that is how you solve that for multiplication and division of fractions. So for multiplication, you multiply the 2 numerators together, you multiply the 2 denominators together, and you divide both of them. All right. Now for division, it's the same thing like multiplication, but you have an extra step where you flip the second fraction, then you follow the 3 rules, and that will be the answer. All right, so that is that for that. The next video, I'm going to move straight to addition and subtraction. Then how do you add and subtract algebraic fraction? All right. So like I said, don't forget to like or subscribe, and don't forget to also, if you have any question, please feel free to drop it in the comment section, or you can email me directly and I will get back to you. All right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.